the obvious questions are the same for you now. I mean, what most of the people here know the music scene in Chile, and it would be very interesting to hear about your opinion about what do you like about it? What is what has been done well? Somebody wants to mention something. Is there anything well done? We have a microphone there, so. To give a little time to think to our audience here, I can remember our watchers through streaming that you can also send us your questions and comments. What do you think that has been done well in Chile in the music scene? And after that, we are going to get into what can be improved. You can get to us through our Facebook page, through our email, and also through Twitter to our hashtag that is CIM 2017 SIMUC. So, please, Carlos.
Just to say something about it, I think we have to analyze the scene in several branches, like the people in this video are talking about. What about the education system? What about festivals and fund for these festivals? Do you agree or not? The government must support with money festivals which are organized by private universities in some cases. I don't know, it is a really huge field to analyze in several branches, but for me, one of the main thing you have to analyze and say something and try to figure out how to fix it is the educational system. How the music is in our schools, what happened with the young people. Do they sing? Do they play instruments? Do they go to a concert? Do they know about music?
I think that it's a very important, maybe the most important thing, but that relates to what should be improved maybe. Yeah. I wanted to hear a few positive opinions of our music scene.
There is a lot of at the same time.
For example,
somebody was saying about the quantity of festivals, the orchestras who are playing contemporary music nowadays, much more than 10 or 20 years ago. The orchestra of Concepcion has a competition, a call for scores, kind of competition, and they premiere 3 works a year, plus much music in the seasons, the concert seasons, and they have a festival as well, a contemporary music festival as well. What happened in La Serena? La Serena plays the Luis Advis competition, yes. And they play 3 pieces, and they program these winners during the year. So the pieces are sounding more than one time at least. In Antofagasta is happening something similar. In Valdivia, something as well. In Temuco as well. So I think the movement nowadays, because musicians are saying something, the music is traveling around our country.
We were talking yesterday after the conference about this percentage that orchestras have in Chile. They have to program Chilean music. No? It's 20%, 25%. Would you say that is something that has been done well in Chile?
If you allow me, let me tell you the story. It is short. Before this founding for orchestras in the regions out of Santiago, the symphonic orchestra from Concepcion started to play more than 20% of Chilean music. And after that, this fund was created. And that was the average of music because it exists before. Mm-hmm. And orchestras agree. The thing is, how can we get more percentage, but not obligating the people. It's not mandatory 50%, but why not?
Yes, why not? Somebody else would like to add something positive about our music scene? I know it's difficult. Okay, so then the other question is, do you have some idea, or do you have something in mind that should be improved? And if yes, then the earlier the better.
For me, watching at the film, it was obvious that no female composers were interviewed. So, and I guess when you were starting, you had in your class female students who were studying the same thing with you. What happened with them? And just to think about these traditional roles. The women are the musicians, the male are the composers. So,
yes, that is a sad reality, and it's changing. But I can tell you, when I started composition, at least in the 90s and at the end of the 90s, in my generation there was no woman, and in the 4 generations that there were at my time, there was one woman. So it's a real reflection from reality, what you see here in the video. We at the production phase, we tried to get more women, but it was not easy. So as you see, there are 2 women performers. They specialize in contemporary music. That's why they are there also. But it's not easy to find women composers, sadly. There are a few, and we have in the SIMUC, we have programmed pieces from them. We have a program in our podcast. An episode was dedicated just to women composers. Done with, the presenter was Alejandro Albornoz. Yeah, there were women who were presenters, but they programmed men, and so what can you do?
I think that we discussed it also yesterday, and I think it is an important subject, because in which ways you can encourage that. There could be effective ways of doing it, like reducing, I don't know. Well, there are practical matters, but apart from those, well, for example, you were talking, 25% of Chilean music, 50% of Chilean music, which I personally would find too nationalistic, maybe, and endogamic in many ways, because but maybe why not a certain percentage of women compose music in programs? And I know that has been discussed by orchestras in Chile, and it has been an issue. Like people really don't. They say no, what, like, they say no. We need to care about the technical aspects of the pieces, which we know it's not a reality. It's about how you use that. And then on the other question, I think also came up yesterday, is about for example, choosing and saying, choosing women composers. And as I said yesterday, I think a lot of the students that have been women have decided to go into other fields, especially popular song, but they still call those songs compositions, and they still think of themselves as composers. So there is also that side of power of saying who is and is not a composer from the institutions and the government. So yeah, if we are talking about the quotas that are asked for, because if we think of this 25% of Chilean music, who is benefiting from that? So that's to benefit composers, male composers. So shouldn't we say, well, why not other types of quotas for other things that are happening? I don't know. I could think of many different ones in Chile that are necessary, but yeah. So yeah, and not only that nationalism coming from that, it's not neutral the 25%. Sorry, it's not neutral the 25% or the 50%. So who is coming to that?
Maybe you want to say something. Yeah, it is getting better. Nowadays, the main conductor of the National Chamber Orchestra is a woman. I know in some orchestras, women are invited as guest conductors. The Marga Marga Orchestra is programming more than often women pieces. I don't know if there is a criteria to select them, but I've seen the programs, and yeah, they play music from composed by women. So I think it's getting better. But the thing is, there are more men than women, because the history. That's it. It's not better or worse. I think more women is becoming composers. Exactly. And I think someday there will be more women than men. Will be amazing.
But we have to address this problem at the beginning, no? At the schools maybe already, no? Because as Jose Manuel mentioned it a few times already yesterday and today, the women, even though they get to study composition, that is something already in our society. They are the black sheep there, and they are pushed away by the academia and by the mainstream. I mean, yeah, in this circle. So it's complicated to be the black sheep and also try to put a little color in the white sheep.
Yeah, I think you know, it's yeah, history is the documents we have. So at the end, you know, nothing has survived from the music that Mozart's you know, sister wrote, and that's his documentary history. At the end, you know, there was a decision that didn't survive, and Mozart music survived. So, and that she couldn't have a career and that sort of thing. But at the end, in engineering in the Universidad de Chile, they took the decision in Bochef to have a specific rule so that more women could enter, to stop this thing of having 500 men and 5 women, which happened for many, many years in the Universidad de Chile. And they took specific actions to stop that, and having certain quotas and having certain ways of encouraging more women to enter.
That was in general, not only composition. No?
No, in engineering in the Universidad de Chile. So it has never happened in composition. Yeah. But if in engineering, that has had a huge effect in the last 10 years, and is seen as a, you know, a big impact. It's being copied in other parts of the world as something positive. It has really affected the way engineering works in the Universidad de Chile, and it can be, I think, perfectly done in music, something similar. Taking that it is a Chilean initiative that has been copied in other parts of Latin America because it has been successful. So yeah, I think it can be actively done in more present ways.
Maybe to add some part of the musicology side of this, so because we have a lot of musicologists now here, do you think there's something that could be improved in the musicology scene in Chile? For example, do you find that activities like this today, where Chilean musicologists talk about Chilean music and the Chilean music scene, have been done enough? Too much? Is there a budget for this? Would that be positive?
Yeah, I think that we, as the typical saying, there are no problems with budget because we don't have budget. So I think this is a very interesting exercise for both musicologists and composers, because in general we meet with just musicologists or music scholars, and if you see, for example, the structure of the music schools or music universities, is revealing that, for example, in the Universidad de Chile, nobody knows musicologists because they are lonely wolf in the 8th floor and nobody knows about them. But then you have composers, people studying theory, and performers, and there are no relations between them. So I think the exercise of talk together here or it's very interesting to hear the other perspective, even when sometimes we can obviously have differences, but I think that is precisely the richness of a dialogue like this one. But at the same time, I think that it's necessary that even when obviously we want to a better future and things changing, maybe it's a too disciplinary comment, but I think it's not only necessary to think about what is positive at what can we do better in the future, but also make a sharp study, a sharp diagnostic to understand what had been happening before. I think it's not enough to say, for example, there are no women, but then if you start talking and you start tracing the reasons behind that fact, obviously we can find some answers. It's not simply that there are not. For example, at the beginning we said, there are not women in the video, but then you mentioned, for example, that Alejandro Albornoz programmed some music made by women. So where are those persons? I'm not trying to create a conflict here. I'm just putting this as an example of something bigger that is not only related to the people who are here in this place, but from the perspective of the musicologists, it's also necessary, I think, for us to start thinking in different problems. What I mentioned before about these cases of music that has been never considered as part of the legitimate musicology subjects, you know. So, for example, at the moment, if we compare the works of musicologists from other parts of the world, from other parts of Latin America and other parts of Europe, from Chile, there are a lot of lacks. There are a lot of gaps in the research. Sorry for my being so long, but I just want to point out that if we continue doing reproducing the discourses that have been dominant through I don't know the whole 20th century, we are just repeating the same discourse and not looking for something else.
Yeah, I wanted to add only that as things like the law of music that obligates the media to program 20% music, and this other law that obligates orchestras to program 25% of music, of Chilean music, I am sure that this has a direct effect in the Chilean music that is being composed. More people has the chance, more composer has the chance to have their pieces premiered, especially in orchestra pieces, because you, as a composer, you have to be a little crazy, and most of them are, but you have to be a little crazy to write an orchestra piece without knowing that this is going to be performed. So in the same sense, I think that, and what we are trying now with this activity at the SIMUC is to produce the circumstances so that research, and in this case, maybe you have your subjects, but you already said that, Martin, in your presentation, that you change it a little bit. Instead of music for film, composing for film. So a situation like this that we have created with the financial support of Chile Global, thank you for that. I think it helps, and it's an active move, a concrete move to help our musicologists to speak about these topics and not only repeat the same news about the problems. No? So I'm glad that we have done this small